All right, hi guys. This is Mr. Tamajan. I hope you guys are doing well today. It is Sunday morning. Yes, I know I'm not wearing a tie. See, it's kind of crazy. This is a hoodie, which I'm not taking from me because it's mine, and I'm in my house, and it's Sunday morning, so I did not get shaved. Oh, I also have a face that extends below, here. Yeah, I don't wear a mask all the time. Hey, Martin Aram, you want to say hi? Say hi. 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 Okay. So we are packing because we're going to move next week. Oh, and that's Melissa's cousin is an amazing painter. And so that's a painting that she gave to Melissa of, I think it's a gravestone in Savannah, Georgia. All right. Enough of that. You're here because you need some extra help. You need some extra help with the Constitution in preparation for the test, or because you don't feel the best about the test, how the test went. So you already watched a movie about, or a video, I hope, about the three branches. If you didn't, go back and watch that first. It's me talking with one of the classes about the three branches: legislative, executive, judicial. What do they do? Make, enforce, interpret. National through leaders, the Congress, the president, the Supreme Court, and so on. Okay, but there's a whole bunch more. There are other constitutional principles that we have not, that also require some explanation. So let me share my screen and we'll go there. I will post this. You'll see when I post this video, you'll also have this paper, which hopefully most of you have as of now, but there are still a few of you who I haven't seen in a long time. So you might not have this. Anyway, I'll post it. So there's our separation of powers, three branches. You should be familiar with that chart at this point. Within the idea of separation of powers, the fact that there is a legislative, executive, and judicial branch that all have different functions, there is the idea of checks and balances, which is the idea that every branch has powers that it can use to stop the other branches from doing stuff that it doesn't like. So we're going to start with, let's do it this way. We're going to start with the president. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. We're going to start with the president and Congress, because those are the first two branches, after all, you know. The Article 1 branch is the legislative branch. The Article 2 branch is the executive branch. So, and let's also start with what I think you'll be most familiar with. So executive, of course, that's the president. Legislative, of course, that's the Congress. And you'll notice that there's an arrow. The arrow points from the branch that's doing the checking to the branch that's getting checked. So the executive branch takes an action. The legislative branch's power is limited by that action. Here's what it is for what the president can do to deal with Congress. First, the president can veto bills. I guess that's one you've probably heard about, right? By the way, if I highlight something, you should be marking it on your paper, or whatever the electronic equivalent of that would be for you, or maybe taking notes on a separate piece of paper if you can't print this out. The president has the power to veto bills. What's Congress's job? What's the legislative branch's job? Make laws. But the president can say, no, you made that bill, I don't like it, therefore I veto it, I reject it, and so it can't become a law. I will also note that's one check. I will also note the president has military power. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Now, that doesn't give him total power, but it does mean he tells the guys who have the guns where to go, when to drop missiles, or when to shoot missiles, when to drop bombs, when to send troops in. He has that type of power. It's not unlimited, but the president has a lot of power over the military. Please keep that in mind. All right. Keeping on going here. So those are the two big things that the president can do to Congress. The president can veto bills. The president can command the army. If I don't highlight something, that means you really don't need to worry about it. This special sessions thing never happens. Don't worry about it at all. I'm not even going to talk about it. All right. Remember, though, what the framers of the Constitution were trying to avoid. Martin Aram might. I don't think that's the right answer, Martin Aram. The framers of the Constitution, when they made the Constitution, they were trying to keep all the power from ending up in one person or one group's hands. They were really worried about a king. And the closest thing we've got to a king here in the United States is a president. So of course, Congress was going to be super careful to not give the president too much power, and then also to limit the president's power. Look at all these things Congress can do to the president. So I'm going to highlight, all 6 of them are honestly pretty important, but I'm going to highlight the first 4. First, approving presidential appointments, and I'm going to have to explain this a little bit. So number 1 is approve presidential appointments. That means if the president wants to hire somebody for certain things, Congress needs to approve. And the president gets lots of help because he's got a huge job. So he has lots of people working for him. The most important people who work for him are his top advisors. They are called the cabinet. So the president's top advisors are the cabinet. It's his top aides. It's his assistant when it comes to military. That's called the Secretary of Defense. His assistant when it comes to dealing with other countries. That's his Secretary of State. His assistant on matters of finance, money. That's the Secretary of the Treasury. You get the idea? For every single one of these, the president needs the approval of the Congress, specifically the Senate. So when I say approve presidential appointments, I'm not talking about approving his schedule, his daily appointments, whether he can go to the doctor. No, I'm talking about I'm talking about Congress chooses the president's the president chooses people to be in charge of certain things. The president hires people, and then Congress has to approve those hirings before those people can start working. All right. So approve president's. So it's like this: the Senate approves the president's hiring decisions. Specifically, for example, the cabinet. All right, let me fix that so you can actually see the rest of the stuff here. Good. So the Senate approves the president's hiring decisions. Just to be clear, we're talking about, this is not going to work. No, here we go. This will work. That's terrible. That doesn't look right. This one goes there. There we go. All right. So that's number 1. Number 2, the authority to bring impeachment hearings. It doesn't get any more serious than this. So let's move this over here. Impeachment is how you get rid of a president. If you really don't like a president, there is a 2-step process: impeachment and removal. House does the impeaching. The House of Representatives impeaches by a majority vote. Then the Senate can remove by a 2/3 vote. There are 3 presidents in history that have been impeached, only one who's been impeached twice. You've been alive for that one. It was last year. No, wait, it was this year. Gosh. One of them was this year. So the House of Representatives has impeached presidents several times. The Senate has never gotten a 2/3 vote to remove a president. But that's the biggest and most powerful thing that the president can do, or sorry, that Congress can do to mess with the president. Let's keep going. The power to override presidential vetoes. That is, you know, you didn't think that Congress has lawmaking power. If the president just says no to a bill, you really think that's going to be it, that there's going to be no way for Congress to do anything about it? Congress can override the veto and it can still become a law, but you need a 2/3 vote. So a veto override requires a 2/3 vote in both houses. It doesn't happen very often. We'll talk about one. However, when we talk about the years after the Civil War, from 1865 to 1869, there was an impeachment and there were lots and lots of overrides. We'll talk about it later though, when we get there. Last thing we really need to worry about. Last thing we really need to worry about is controlling appropriations. And this is maybe the only thing that Congress does well these days. And even that, I'm exaggerating. The Congress has the power to spend money. If the Congress does not approve of certain spending, then the government can't spend that money. And that's a big deal if the government can't spend money, because then the government can't pay its bills and then people can't work for the government. The national government spending is controlled by Congress. And this is the biggest thing, the biggest way, you see the dollar signs. This is the biggest way that Congress can check the president's powers as commander in chief, because if the Congress doesn't like the way that the president is using his military, then just stop paying for that military, or say, I'm not going to pay for this stuff anymore, and you'll get the president's attention pretty quick. But wait, you'll say, no, there's more that the president can do, or that the Congress can do to deal with other countries and the military. Look, it says right here, declare war. Yeah, I know, that's true. But listen, we haven't had a war declaration since December 8th, 1941, or thereabouts. And the United States has sent troops to tons of countries since then. There has been no war declared by the US Congress since World War II, which ended before my parents were born. But the US has sent troops and fought in countries over and over again since then. We don't use the war declaration power very much anymore, which is why I'm not highlighting it, not because it's not important. Likewise, this treaty ratification thing, it also is important. Treaties are deals made by the president with other countries, or negotiated by the president and his staff with other countries, that then need to be approved by 2/3 of the Senate. Because that's so hard to do, most presidents have tried to figure it. It's hard to get 2/3 of the Senate to agree on anything. Most presidents have not signed treaties that require that 2/3 vote. All right, that was fun. We've got one more branch, and luckily this one more branch, its powers are pretty simple to explain. And the ways that it can be checked are also pretty easy to explain. So we've covered president checking Congress. We've covered Congress checking the president. Now let's go over to this third branch. Yes, the Article 3 branch, the Supreme Court. First of all, let's talk about okay, my boy just took a big spill. So if you'll excuse me for a moment, he's going to come and hang out with us. I'll be right back. Oh, Papi. Oh, I'm sorry, kiddo. It's okay. You're all right. Here. Come say hi. Come say hi to my kiddos. Here, look. It's Martin Aram. Oh, he got startled. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Hi. Yeah. See? Isn't this fun? Look, there's Martin Aram. There he is. And there's me. Ooh, it's Martin Aram and Daddy. Okay. So third branch, Article 3 branch is the Martin Aram. Can you say Supreme Court? That's pretty good. Pretty good. You know what the third branch does? You know what the Supreme Court does? Say interpret laws. Say laws. Okay, great. All right. So the Article 3 branch interprets laws, and specifically the way that the Article 3 branch, the Supreme Court, can check the other branch's power is it can I'm going to highlight the big thing that it does. It declares things unconstitutional. It says, no, you can't do that. That doesn't fit with the Constitution. So let me show you. All right. So highlight these guys. Really? Okay. Maybe we should have a conversation about that a little later. But highlight these guys. Okay, kiddo. We're gonna go right back. I'll be right back. Hey, okay. So Article 3 branch, Supreme Court says to the Congress, can say to the Congress, this law that you passed, it's unconstitutional. Therefore, no more law. Can't be enforced. Okay? That's the biggest thing that the Supreme Court can do to Congress. The Supreme Court can declare laws unconstitutional. Up here, same thing. The Supreme Court can declare laws enforced by the president and actions taken by the president to be illegal or unconstitutional. That's how they check the president. That's how they check the Congress. In other words, they can, I'll just write it down here. And maybe you only need to write it once. I think that makes sense. Supreme Court can declare laws passed by Congress and enforced by the president to be can declare laws unconstitutional. And those would be laws passed by Congress and enforced by the president. Okay, that's the big thing that the Supreme Court can do. And the Supreme Court's pretty well insulated from checks from the other two branches because the Supreme Court, they serve for life on good behavior. Yes, it does say here that Congress can impeach the Supreme Court, but that almost never happens. Really, the only thing that you need to know in terms of how the president and Congress can influence the Supreme Court is the president is when there's a vacancy. There's 9 Supreme Court justices. What if one retired or died? And that's it. That's the only way that you're going to get a new Supreme Court justice, because Supreme Court justices serve for life according to the Constitution. So what if you have a vacancy? What if somebody dies or somebody retires? Then the president chooses the justice to fill that vacancy. This happened 3 times while President Trump was president. 3 times. That was a huge thing. by the way. And he had 3 vacancies to fill in 4 years. To compare, Barack Obama served for 8 years. He only got to nominate 2 justices. George W. Bush, his predecessor, served for 8 years. He only got to nominate 2 justices. Bill Clinton, his predecessor, served for 8 years. Again, only got to nominate 2 justices. This is a huge deal that the President Trump, of all people, got to nominate 3 in just 4 years. And then those nominations were all approved by the Senate. The Senate needs to approve judicial appointments by a majority vote. That's it. No, sir, I think that's it for the Supreme Court. Or sorry, for all 3 branches and checks and balances. Yeah, I just saved that because I think I did a pretty nice job of annotating that chart. Thank you very much. If you're working on this and you're saying, what are these abbreviations over here? They're a little weird. SCOTUS stands for Supreme Court of the United States, and POTUS stands for President of the United States. Am I still talking? Yes, I am, because we've still got things to do. All right, so we've hit checks and balances. Let's keep it going. ¿Qué pasó, papi? Oh no. What? I don't think it's that big a deal, bud. Well, okay. There we go. All right, on to federalism. Federalism is the other idea. So remember up here, there's this fact that powers are separated between 3 branches, right? Legislative branch can do something, executive can do something, judicial can do something. Well, there's also this separation. This is also in the Constitution. National government, and that's all 3 branches of the national government, can do certain things. State government can do other certain things. All right. All right, let me keep it going here because Martin Aram's getting grumpy and I'm not going to be able to last much longer. And he's not going to be able to last much longer either. So a couple things to highlight, of course, on federalism. So first things you need to know. The word, please underline and highlight the word delegated. Okay. The word delegated is the word for powers that are given only to the national government. They are called delegated powers. Okay, powers that are only for the states, those are reserved powers. Highlight those. And the word shared is the word concurrent. So that word is not even there. This one you got to just note. Okay, concurrent. All right, hello. Good morning, Melissa. I am making a video right now, FYI. So anything you say can and will be heard by my students. All right. So there's the three terms you need to know. Delegated, only the US government can do it. Only Congress working in Washington, D.C. and the President and Supreme Court. Reserved, only states can do it. Congress is not in charge of it. Congress can't really make laws about it, and the president can't really enforce it because it's a power that's reserved to the states. Shared powers, concurrent powers, both can do it. All right. I'm just going to highlight a couple things here in each list, in part because people had questions about them when I taught this in person. So regulating interstate and foreign trade. What does regulate interstate trade mean? It means regulate means to make rules, and interstate means between the states. So, and trade means business. So make rules for business done between states. That could be as simple as, like, you buy something online from a company that's based in Connecticut. the thing's going to get shipped to your house. You're going to pay for it with US money, but how are taxes going to work? Because you bought, because it was a Connecticut seller and you're a New York buyer, Congress is in charge of that. Setting standard weights and measures, that means Congress says we use miles, not kilometers here. We use pounds, not kilograms here. Create and maintain armed forces. You don't want every single one of the 50 states to have an army. I promise it won't be great when New York and New Jersey start having problems, or Mississippi and Tennessee or whatever. Maintain copyright and patent laws. Just to quickly explain what those are, copyright, you get that when you write something like a piece of music or a book or something like that. Copyright means other people can't take the things that you've created and make money off them for themselves. And that's creative works. Then patents are basically the same thing, except for inventions. Thomas Edison got the patent for the light bulb. He's the one who made money off it. Pfizer got the patent for one of the vaccines. They're making lots of money off it. Moderna has another patent, and people are actually giving Moderna a hard time right now, or they're annoyed with Moderna because Moderna is like, let me make more money, as opposed to let me produce as much vaccine as I possibly can to vaccinate as many people in poorer countries as possible. Post offices, yeah, that's what it is. It's what you think it is. Establish foreign policy, establish deals between countries. Again, you don't want New York to make one deal with China and then New Jersey makes another one. That won't go great for the US. Federal courts, coining money means printing money, declaring war and admitting new states. Okay, corporation on the other side, reserved to the states. Yeah, this is all kind of straightforward. Corporation laws are laws for businesses, which is actually, okay, that's kind of a big deal because different states have different laws related to taxes. And so lots of people say, let me set up my company in a state where I don't have a whole lot of regulations. There aren't a lot of rules for my business. Therefore, then I'll be able to make more money. There are actually, I got to still read the article, but there is a big sugar plantation owner in Dominican Republic who decided to set up a corporation in South Dakota, or save all its money in South Dakota. I don't know exactly what, because South Dakota has got such lax laws. I'll tell you more about that on Tuesday, once I've read the article about it. Schools, state government thing. I'm a state employee, meaning, well, I'm actually a city employee, but the power to have a city employee comes from states. If it weren't for the state government, schools would not exist because states make schools. Marriage, divorce, yeah, okay. All right, concurrent powers. I guess the one thing here that's pretty important is raising taxes. Both the national and the state governments can get taxes, can tax the people, and both national and state governments can borrow money to make up the difference if taxes don't bring in enough. Why is that important? Because all of this stuff costs money, guys. It costs money to declare war and to have a military. It costs money to run a post office. All that costs money. So you better have somebody to pay for it. And all this stuff costs money too. Please pay your taxes to your local or state governments, because otherwise I don't get to work because there's no money to pay me, right? It's that kind of thing. All right, I think there's one more thing to wrap up with. All right, enough annotating for now. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do though. Enough with the annotating here. Clear it out, great. On we go, down to flexibility. The Constitution was written in 1787. It's really old. It is the oldest continuously functioning constitution in the world. That's kind of amazing. There are ways that we've made it, we've had to reshape it in relation to changing times. There weren't airplanes, there wasn't an internet when the Constitution was written. So what do? There wasn't even a telephone back when the Constitution was written. So how do you change with the changing times? Well, at least three things are included in the Constitution. Well, at least three things can be done with the Constitution because of it being flexible, to make it more flexible. One, you can change the text of the Constitution. There's only one way to do it. That's the amendment process. That is an extremely burdensome process. There have only been 27 amendments in the entire history of the United States. Only 17 of those since 1800. Yeah, that's not a lot. You need 2/3 of each House of Congress and 3/4 of the states to approve of an amendment in order for it to be added to the Constitution. The elastic clause is another way that the Constitution's power can be stretched, because remember, Congress is delegated certain powers, but one of those powers is the power to do whatever is necessary and proper in relation to all its other powers, in relation to completing all its other powers. And that is a broad enough phrase that it can be used to stretch the power of Congress quite a bit. Necessary and proper clause, the elastic clause, allows Congress and thereby the whole national government to stretch its power. And finally, we've got judicial review. The Supreme Court's power to declare laws unconstitutional and to interpret the Constitution differently over time. The most obvious example of this is the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment says that all people are entitled to equal protection of the laws. That amendment was created in order to make sure that Black people didn't face discrimination after the Civil War, when they had finally won their freedom after years and years of slavery. The 14th Amendment said, we're going to make sure that the law applies equally to Black people and white people. Well, the 14th Amendment was interpreted somehow 30 years later to say, well, you can segregate schools, segregate buses, segregate whatever you want. It's still constitutional because that's what the Supreme Court said. That was a terrible decision, but the Supreme Court did it. By 1954, the Supreme Court was saying, no, you can't segregate schools. That is unconstitutional. And by the 1960s, the Supreme Court was using that equal protection of the laws language to prevent discrimination on the basis of sex, male or female. By 2015, it was using that language to say, if you are of one sex and you want to marry someone of the same sex, that's protected, because that's allowed because equal protection of the laws. You get to marry who you want to marry, regardless of their sex. And by last year, 2 years ago, last year, the Supreme Court said that the 14th Amendment at least kind of applied to transgender rights, and whether you can face discrimination on the basis of your sexual identity. All that from the words about equal protection of the laws in the 14th Amendment, all that has changed over time. Okay, kiddos, I think I'm done talking about all of those things. I hope this isn't too long. I hope it's helpful. And of course, if you don't want to listen to me, just fast forward or listen to the next thing, or come back and do it when you're ready, because it's all on video. Okay. Martin Aram is not going to say bye-bye, unless, Martin Aram, you want to say bye-bye? Okay, maybe you heard that. And we will say bye-bye. And I'll see you later. Bye.